The morning mist clung to the waters of the River Dart as King Charles III stepped out of his official vehicle at the gates of Britannia Royal Naval College. The ancient stone buildings stood majestically against the backdrop of rolling Devon hills, their weathered facades telling stories of countless naval officers who had passed through these hallowed halls. Today was different from any other day in the college's distinguished history. The king was not here merely for a ceremonial visit or inspection. He had come to personally lead the Lord High Admiral's division, a decision that had sent ripples of excitement and nervous energy throughout the entire naval establishment. The college grounds were bustling with activity as cadets hurried to their morning formations. Their polished boots clicked rhythmically against the stone pathways, creating a symphony of military precision that had echoed through these corridors for over a century. The Union Jack flew proudly from the main flagpole, its colors vibrant against the gray morning sky. Seagulls circled overhead, their cries mixing with the distant sound of orders being barked across the parade ground. Charles had always felt a deep connection to the Royal Navy. His own naval service years ago had shaped him profoundly, instilling in him the values of duty, honor, and service that would guide him throughout his life. As he walked through the main entrance, flanked by senior naval officers, memories of his own time at sea came flooding back. The salt air, the rolling waves, the camaraderie of shipmates facing the challenges of the ocean together. These experiences had forged his character and deepened his understanding of what it meant to serve one's country. The Lord High Admiral's division was no ordinary naval unit. It represented the pinnacle of naval excellence, comprising the most promising young officers and the most seasoned veterans. These were individuals who had demonstrated exceptional leadership, courage, and dedication to the service. To be selected for this division was considered one of the highest honors in the Royal Navy. The fact that the king himself would be leading them was unprecedented and spoke volumes about the importance he placed on naval tradition and excellence. Admiral Sir Marcus Hartwell, the college's commandant, greeted the king with a crisp salute. His weathered face bore the marks of decades at sea, and his eyes held the steely determination that came from years of naval command. Behind him stood the division's officers, each one carefully selected for their exceptional abilities and unwavering commitment to the service. Their uniforms were immaculate, their bearing proud, yet there was an underlying tension in the air. Leading a monarch was unlike any challenge they had faced before. The king's presence had transformed the usual morning routine at the college. Cadets who normally went about their duties with practiced efficiency now moved with an extra spring in their step. The knowledge that their sovereign was among them, not as a distant figurehead, but as an active participant in their training, filled them with a sense of pride and purpose that was almost palpable. Word had spread quickly through the dormitories and mess halls that this was no ordinary visit. As Charles was briefed on the day's activities, he listened intently to every detail. The morning would begin with a tactical exercise in the college's state-of-the-art simulation center, where the division would face a complex naval scenario requiring quick thinking and coordinated response. This would be followed by practical seamanship training aboard the college's training vessels, where traditional naval skills will be put to the test in real-world conditions. The king's military aide, Colonel James Mitchell, had spent weeks coordinating the security arrangements for this unprecedented event. The challenge was maintaining the necessary protection for the monarch while allowing him to participate fully in the naval training exercises. Special protocols have been developed, and additional security personnel have been discreetly positioned throughout the college grounds. Yet the king had been adamant that his presence should not disrupt the normal flow of training or compromise the authenticity of the exercises. In the officers' mess, conversations buzzed with excitement and speculation. Young midshipmen who had dreamed of serving under the crown now found themselves preparing to do so literally. The more experienced officers shared stories of previous royal visits, but all agreed that nothing quite compared to this. The king would not be observing from the sidelines. He would be an integral part of the division, participating in decision-making and sharing in both the challenges and successes of the training exercises. The division's senior chief petty officer, Sarah Thompson, had served in the Royal Navy for over 20 years. She had seen action in various theaters around the world and had earned the respect of officers and enlisted personnel alike. As she prepared her team for the day's activities, she emphasized the importance of maintaining their high standards while adapting to the unique circumstances of having their sovereign as an active participant. Her steady leadership and vast experience would prove invaluable in the days ahead. The king's decision to lead the Lord High Admiral's division had not been made lightly. It reflected his deep commitment to understanding and supporting the armed forces he served as commander-in-chief. In an era of rapid technological change and evolving global threats, he recognized the importance of staying connected to the realities faced by service personnel at all levels. This hands-on approach would provide him with invaluable insights into the challenges and opportunities facing the modern Royal Navy. As the morning progressed, the initial nervousness began to give way to focused determination. The king's calm demeanor and genuine interest in the proceedings helped put the division at ease. His questions were thoughtful and demonstrated a thorough understanding of naval operations and strategy. It became clear that his decades of experience as heir to the throne, combined with his own military background, had prepared him well for this moment. The college's historic halls seemed to resonate with the significance of the occasion. Portraits of famous naval commanders gazed down from the walls, as if bearing witness to this extraordinary chapter in the institution's proud history. From Admiral Nelson to more recent heroes of the service, these figures had shaped British naval tradition and inspired generations of officers. Now, their sovereign was adding his own contribution to this legacy. The weather began to clear as the morning advanced, with weak sunlight breaking through the clouds and casting long shadows across the parade ground. The River Dart sparkled in the distance, its waters calling to those who had chosen to make their careers upon the sea. Training vessels bobbed gently at their moorings, ready to carry the division out into the waters where their skills would be truly tested. In the Tactical Operations Center, technicians made final preparations for the morning's simulation exercise. Banks of computers and displays showed various maritime scenarios from around the world, each one designed to test different aspects of naval command and control. The king would soon take his place alongside the division's officers, facing the same challenges and making the same critical decisions that would determine success or failure in the exercise. The significance of this moment extended far beyond the confines of Britannia Royal Naval College. News of the king's unprecedented role had reached naval bases and ships around the world, inspiring service personnel and reinforcing the strong bond between the monarchy and the armed forces. Social media was alive with messages of support and pride from current and former naval personnel, all eager to see how their sovereign would perform in this challenging role. As the time approached for the first exercise to begin, there was a sense of anticipation that was almost electric. The king had made it clear that he expected no special treatment and would be judged by the same standards as any other officer in the division. This commitment to equality and shared responsibility had earned him the immediate respect of his colleagues and set the tone for what promised to be an extraordinary few days. The division assembled in the briefing room, where Admiral Hartwell outlined the objectives for their first challenge. Intelligence reports indicated hostile naval activity in a strategically important shipping lane, and the division would need to develop and execute a response that protected Britain. It was exactly the kind of complex, multifaceted problem that modern naval commanders faced on a regular basis. The scenario was deliberately challenging. A rogue nation had positioned several fast attack craft in international waters, threatening commercial shipping lanes that were vital to British trade interests. Intelligence suggested that these vessels were equipped with advanced missile systems and were operating under radio silence, making their intentions unclear. The division's mission was to neutralize this threat while avoiding any action that might provoke a larger conflict. It was the kind of delicate balance that modern naval commanders faced regularly in an increasingly complex geopolitical environment. Lieutenant Commander David Richardson, the division's tactical officer, began laying out possible courses of action on the digital plotting table. His fingers moved swiftly across the touch-sensitive surface, creating formation patterns and movement vectors that would position their forces for maximum effectiveness. The king leaned in closer, asking pointed questions about weapon ranges, detection capabilities, and communication protocols. His queries revealed a depth of understanding that surprised even the most experienced officers present. The first phase of the exercise required the division to deploy their forces strategically while maintaining the element of surprise. King Charles suggested a pincer movement that would approach the hostile vessels from multiple directions, reducing their ability to concentrate fire on any single target. His proposal was tactically sound and demonstrated a keen understanding of naval warfare principles. Admiral Hartwell, observing from the balcony above, nodded approvingly as he watched his sovereign seamlessly integrate into the command structure. As the simulation progressed, unexpected complications arose. The enemy forces proved more capable than initial intelligence had suggested, employing sophisticated electronic warfare techniques that disrupted communication between friendly units. The king remained calm under pressure, working with the communications officer to establish alternative command and control methods. His steady demeanor helped maintain morale among the team as they adapted their plans to meet the evolving threat. Chief Petty Officer Thompson coordinated the technical aspects of the simulation, ensuring that all systems functioned smoothly while the officers focused on tactical decision-making. Her experienced eye caught subtle changes in the electronic displays that indicated shifts in the enemy's posture. She quietly alerted Commander Williams to these developments, allowing the division to adjust their approach before the situation became critical. The seamless coordination between officers and enlisted personnel demonstrated the professionalism that made the Royal Navy one of the world's most respected naval forces. The king's background in environmental issues unexpectedly proved valuable when the scenario introduced concerns about potential pollution from damaged vessels. He quickly grasped the implications of oil spills in sensitive marine ecosystems and factored these considerations into the tactical planning process. This holistic approach impressed his colleagues and highlighted the interconnected nature of modern naval operations, where environmental, political, and military factors all played crucial roles. Midshipman James Crawford, one of the youngest members of the division, found himself working directly with the king on communication protocols. The young officer's initial nervousness quickly disappeared as he realized that his sovereign was genuinely interested in learning from him and valued his technical expertise. This reversal of traditional hierarchies created a unique learning environment where knowledge flowed both ways, enriching the experience for everyone involved. The simulation's complexity increased as Allied forces requested assistance, with a separate incident occurring simultaneously in an adjacent area. The division now faced the challenge of dividing their attention and resources between two potentially connected threats. King Charles advocated for maintaining focus on their primary mission while providing limited support to the Allied operation, a decision that balanced competing priorities effectively. The tactical picture continued to evolve as new intelligence revealed that the hostile vessels were part of a larger coordinated operation. Electronic intercepts suggested that additional enemy forces were moving toward the area under cover of darkness. The division's response would need to account for these reinforcements while maintaining their original objectives. The pressure was mounting, but the team's confidence grew as they realized how effectively they were working together. Weather conditions in the simulation began to deteriorate, with heavy seas and reduced visibility affecting both friendly and enemy operations. The king drew upon his own experience sailing in challenging conditions, offering insights about how weather patterns might influence vessel performance and crew capabilities. His practical knowledge complemented the theoretical training of the younger officers, creating a more comprehensive understanding of the operational environment. The division's intelligence officer, Lieutenant Susan Hayes, discovered patterns in the enemy's electronic emissions that suggested they were coordinating with land-based command centers. This revelation opened new possibilities for disrupting their operations through cyber warfare techniques. The king showed particular interest in these emerging capabilities, recognizing their importance for future naval operations. His questions about offensive and defensive cyber capabilities sparked discussions that would continue long after the exercise ended. As the morning progressed, the simulation reached its climax with a coordinated attack on the hostile vessels. The king took position at the weapons control station, working alongside the gunnery officer to coordinate fire support for the engaged units. His hands moved confidently across the control interfaces as he helped direct the engagement, his voice clear and authoritative as he issued orders. The transformation from constitutional monarch to naval warrior was complete and convincing. The enemy forces fought back with unexpected tenacity, launching a counterattack that tested the division's defensive capabilities. Anti-missile systems engaged incoming threats, while damage control teams responded to simulated hits on friendly vessels. The king moved between stations, offering encouragement and assistance where needed, his presence bolstering the team's determination to succeed despite the mounting challenges. Technical problems with the simulation equipment added an element of realism that nobody had planned. When a main tactical display suddenly went dark, the division was forced to rely on backup systems and manual plotting techniques. The king's suggestion to use traditional navigation methods proved prescient, as these skills became essential when electronic systems failed. His emphasis on maintaining fundamental seamanship abilities resonated strongly with the experienced naval officers present. The final phase of the exercise required precise coordination between air and surface forces as fighter aircraft joined the engagement. The king worked closely with the air warfare coordinator, learning the complex procedures for managing mixed force operations. His quick grasp of these intricate protocols impressed the air crews participating remotely from their base, who could observe the proceedings through video links. Victory in the simulation came through a combination of tactical skill, technological superiority, and effective teamwork. The hostile forces were neutralized with minimal collateral damage, shipping lanes were secured, and Allied forces received the support they needed. As the displays returned to standby mode and the immediate pressure lifted, there was a moment of quiet satisfaction among the division members. Admiral Hartwell descended from the observation deck to congratulate the team on their performance. His praise was genuine and well-deserved, focusing particularly on the seamless integration of new leadership into an established command structure. The king's contribution had been significant and meaningful, going far beyond mere symbolic participation. He had proven himself capable of operating effectively at the highest levels of naval command. The debriefing session that followed was thorough and constructive. Each phase of the operation was analyzed, with successes celebrated and mistakes identified for future improvement. The king participated fully in these discussions, offering his own observations and accepting criticism of his decisions with the same grace he showed when receiving praise. His willingness to learn and adapt set a powerful example for the younger officers present. As the morning's activities concluded and the division prepared for their next challenge, there was a palpable sense of achievement and camaraderie. The artificial barriers between sovereign and subject had dissolved under the pressure of shared responsibility and common purpose. What had begun as an unprecedented experiment in royal participation had evolved into something deeper and more meaningful, a genuine demonstration of leadership in action. The afternoon sun broke through the morning clouds as King Charles and the Lord High Admiral's division made their way to the harbor where HMS Britannia, the college's principal training vessel, awaited them. The sleek frigate represented the pinnacle of modern naval engineering, her gray hull cutting an impressive silhouette against the backdrop of the Devon coastline. Her crew had spent the morning preparing for departure, conducting systems checks, and ensuring that every piece of equipment was functioning perfectly for what would undoubtedly be one of the most scrutinized training exercises in naval history. Captain Robert Ashworth, HMS Britannia's commanding officer, stood at attention on the quarterdeck as the division approached the gangway. His 25 years of naval service had prepared him for many challenging situations, but Nothing quite like hosting his sovereign as an active participant in naval operations rather than a ceremonial observer. The crew lined the rails in their dress uniforms, a tradition that honored the magnitude of the occasion while maintaining the dignity appropriate for the presence of their monarch. The king's transition from the simulation center to the actual vessel was seamless, his familiarity with naval protocols evident as he properly requested permission to come aboard and exchange salutes with the ship's officers. The sea breeze carried the distinctive scents of salt air and diesel fuel that were so familiar to anyone who had spent time aboard naval vessels. For Charles, these smells triggered a flood of memories from his own service years, reminding him of the unique culture and traditions that bound naval personnel together across generations. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Walsh, HMS Britannia's executive officer, briefed the king on the ship's capabilities and current status as they made their way to the bridge. The vessel was equipped with the most advanced navigation and communication systems available to the Royal Navy, along with defensive weapon systems that could engage both air and surface threats. Her crew of 120 officers and ratings represented some of the finest naval personnel in the service, many of whom would go on to command their own vessels in the years ahead. The afternoon's exercise would take HMS Britannia into the waters of Lyme Bay, where the Lord High Admiral's division would conduct a series of practical seamanship drills designed to test their ability to work together as a cohesive unit under realistic conditions. These exercises would include formation sailing, damage control procedures, and maritime interdiction operations. The king would participate directly in all activities, taking his turn at various duty stations throughout the ship. As HMS Britannia prepared to get underway, the king took his position on the bridge alongside the navigation team. The process of departing harbor required precise coordination between the bridge crew, engine room, and deck personnel, with numerous safety checks and communications protocols that had to be followed exactly. Charles observed the intricate dance of naval seamanship with obvious appreciation, occasionally asking questions about specific procedures or equipment functions. The ship's movement through the harbor entrance provided the first opportunity for hands-on learning as the king worked with Petty Officer Navigation Specialist Helen Davies to plot their course into open water. Using both traditional chart work and modern electronic navigation systems, they calculated the optimal route that would take them to the exercise area while avoiding commercial shipping traffic and fishing vessels. The combination of old and new techniques fascinated the king, who had always been interested in the evolution of navigation methods. Once HMS Britannia cleared the harbor and entered the open waters of the English Channel, the serious business of naval training began in earnest. The first evolution called for the ship to conduct high-speed maneuvers that would test both the vessel's capabilities and the crew's ability to maintain their footing and continue their duties under challenging conditions. The king secured himself at the chart table and continued his navigation work even as the ship began to pitch and roll in the increasing sea state. The Lord High Admiral's division split into teams for rotating assignments throughout the ship. King Charles found himself assigned to the damage control team, led by Chief Petty Officer Michael Stevens, a veteran submariner who brought unique expertise to surface vessel operations. Their first drill involved responding to a simulated fire in the engineering spaces, requiring rapid deployment of firefighting equipment and coordination with the engine room crew to isolate affected systems. Wearing full firefighting gear and breathing apparatus, the king participated directly in the drill, hauling hoses and operating equipment alongside experienced ratings. The physical demands of damage control work in heavy protective gear were substantial, particularly in the confined spaces below decks where movement was restricted and temperatures soared. Sweat dripped from every team member as they worked to contain the simulated emergency, their efforts coordinated by shouted commands that had to penetrate the noise of ventilation systems and emergency equipment. The complexity of shipboard damage control became apparent as the exercise progressed through multiple scenarios. Flooding in the forward compartments required different techniques and equipment than fires in the engine room, while electrical casualties presented their own unique challenges. The King's willingness to tackle the most demanding and uncomfortable aspects of these drills earned him the respect of the crew, who appreciated his refusal to accept any special treatment or consideration. Following the damage control exercises, the division moved to seamanship training on the weather decks. Working with heavy lines and equipment in the wind and spray of the open ocean required both physical strength and mental concentration. The King joined a team operating the ship's boat crane, helping to launch and recover a rigid inflatable boat that would be used for maritime interdiction training. The coordination required between the crane operator, deck crew, and boat crew was intricate and potentially dangerous, with safety depending on clear communication and precise timing. The maritime interdiction exercise presented the division with a scenario involving a suspicious vessel that needed to be stopped and searched. Intelligence reports suggested that the target might be engaged in weapons smuggling, making the operation both tactically important and potentially hazardous. The King joined the boarding party as they prepared their equipment and reviewed their procedures, learning about the legal and tactical considerations that govern such operations in international waters. As HMS Britannia approached the target vessel, actually another Royal Navy ship playing the role of the suspect, the boarding team prepared to launch their inflatable boat. The King took his place among the boarding party, wearing body armor and carrying the standard equipment issued to all team members. His presence added an unusual dynamic to an already challenging operation, but his commitment to participating fully in all aspects of the exercise was unwavering. The small boat ride to the target vessel provided an opportunity for the King to experience the physical challenges faced by naval personnel conducting real-world operations. The inflatable boat bounced heavily across the waves, soaking its occupants with spray and testing their ability to maintain equipment readiness under adverse conditions. Radio communications between the boarding party and HMS Britannia required careful coordination to ensure that the operation proceeded safely and effectively. Climbing aboard the target vessel in heavy sea conditions required agility and confidence that only came with practice and experience. The King followed the lead of the senior boarding officer, maintaining proper spacing and weapons handling as they secured the vessel's deck spaces. The simulated crew of the target vessel played their roles convincingly, creating realistic conditions for questioning and search procedures that the boarding party had to handle professionally and thoroughly. The search of the target vessel revealed hidden compartments containing simulated weapons and contraband materials, validating the intelligence that had prompted the interdiction operation. The King participated in documenting the evidence and preparing reports that would be used in any subsequent legal proceedings. The attention to detail required for such operations highlighted the professional standards expected of Royal Navy personnel in complex operational environments. Weather conditions continued to deteriorate throughout the afternoon, with increasing wind and waves that tested both equipment and personnel. The King remained on deck with the working parties, helping to secure loose equipment and ensuring that safety lines were properly rigged. His presence during these challenging conditions demonstrated his understanding that leadership meant sharing hardships as well as successes with those under his command. The return journey to the target vessel and subsequent transfer back to HMS Britannia provided additional challenges as the sea state continued to build. The King again demonstrated his commitment to equal participation, taking his turn at the boat's controls under the supervision of the coxswain. His steady hand on the wheel and careful attention to the waves earned approval from the experienced boat crew, who recognized competent seamanship regardless of the practitioner's background. Back aboard HMS Britannia, the division gathered for a comprehensive debrief of the day's activities. Each evolution was analyzed in detail, with particular attention to areas where procedures could be improved or where individual performance had been exceptional. The King participated actively in these discussions, offering his observations and accepting feedback on his own performance with the same openness expected of any junior officer learning new skills. As HMS Britannia began her transit back to harbor, The king spent time with individual crew members, learning about their backgrounds, career aspirations, and experiences in the Royal Navy. These conversations revealed the diversity of the modern naval service and the high caliber of personnel who chose to serve their country at sea. The crew's pride in their profession was evident, as was their appreciation for their sovereign's genuine interest in their work and welfare. The setting sun painted the waters of Lime Bay in shades of gold and crimson as HMS Britannia approached the harbor entrance. The successful completion of the afternoon's exercises had demonstrated the value of hands-on leadership and the importance of shared experience in building effective teams. The king's participation had enriched the training for everyone involved while providing him with invaluable insights into the realities of modern naval service. The bonds forged through shared challenges and mutual respect would endure long after the exercise concluded. Evening shadows stretched across the grounds of Britannia Royal Naval College as HMS Britannia secured her berth after the successful completion of the afternoon's training exercises. The ship's crew worked efficiently to shut down systems and prepare for the night, their movements reflecting the professionalism that had characterized every aspect of the day's activities. King Charles remained on the bridge with Captain Ashworth, observing the harbor operations and discussing the lessons learned from their time at sea. The final phase of the king's leadership of the Lord High Admiral's division would take place in the college's war room, where strategic planning and decision-making skills would be tested through a comprehensive command exercise. This sophisticated facility contained the most advanced communication and analysis equipment available to the Royal Navy, capable of linking with operational units anywhere in the world and processing vast amounts of intelligence data in real time. Admiral Sir Marcus Hartwell gathered the division in the main briefing theater for an overview of the evening scenario. The exercise would simulate a complex international crisis requiring careful coordination between political and military authorities. Multiple nations were involved, with competing interests and evolving alliances that would challenge the division's ability to develop coherent strategies under pressure. The king would serve as the senior military advisor to the fictional government, responsible for recommending courses of action based on naval capabilities and limitations. The scenario began with reports of piracy incidents in a strategically important sea lane, but intelligence analysis soon revealed connections to state-sponsored terrorism and potential violations of international maritime law. The situation was deliberately ambiguous, requiring careful interpretation of incomplete information and consideration of multiple possible outcomes. The king studied the initial briefings intently, making notes and asking clarifying questions that demonstrated his growing confidence in his tactical knowledge. Commander Sarah Williams led the intelligence analysis team, coordinating with specialists in signals intelligence, imagery analysis, and human intelligence to build a comprehensive picture of the developing situation. The king worked closely with this team, contributing his understanding of international relations and diplomatic protocols to help interpret the political dimensions of the crisis. His unique perspective as head of state provided insights that complemented the military expertise of his colleagues. The communications center buzzed with activity as the division established contact with simulated government officials, allied naval forces, and international organizations. The king found himself coordinating with role-playing diplomats and political leaders, balancing military requirements against diplomatic constraints and domestic political considerations. The complexity of these interactions highlighted the intricate relationship between military force and political objectives in modern international relations. As the crisis evolved, new intelligence reports suggested that the piracy incidents were part of a larger destabilization campaign targeting multiple countries in the region. The division's mission expanded from simple maritime security to broader strategic deterrence, requiring coordination with air and land forces as well as intelligence agencies. The king adapted quickly to these changing requirements, demonstrating the flexibility essential for effective leadership in dynamic situations. Lieutenant Commander David Richardson coordinated the tactical planning cell, developing operational concepts that could be implemented by Royal Navy units in the affected region. The king participated directly in this process, helping to evaluate different approaches and their potential consequences. His questions about rules of engagement, collateral damage, and exit strategies reflected a sophisticated understanding of the ethical and practical challenges facing military commanders in complex operations. The exercise introduced unexpected complications when allied nations began requesting conflicting forms of assistance. Some wanted aggressive military action to deter further attacks, while others preferred diplomatic solutions that would avoid escalation. The king found himself mediating between these competing demands, searching for solutions that would satisfy military objectives while maintaining coalition unity. His diplomatic experience proved invaluable in navigating these delicate negotiations. Chief Petty Officer Thompson coordinated the technical aspects of the command exercise, ensuring that communication systems functioned smoothly and that information flowed efficiently between different analysis teams. Her experience managing complex operations under pressure helped maintain the steady tempo of activities even as the crisis scenario became increasingly demanding. The king's respectful interactions with enlisted personnel throughout the day had earned their admiration and created an atmosphere of mutual respect that enhanced the division's effectiveness. The crisis reached a critical point when hostile forces launched a surprise attack on commercial vessels, causing casualties and threatening to close important shipping lanes. The division's response required immediate action while simultaneously planning for longer-term strategic objectives. The king helped coordinate the deployment of naval forces for both rescue operations and deterrent patrols, balancing urgent humanitarian concerns against broader military requirements. Weather information added another layer of complexity to the operational planning as seasonal storms threatened to limit air support and complicate naval movements in the affected area. The king drew upon his environmental knowledge to help assess the impact of weather patterns on operational capabilities, contributing to more realistic planning assumptions. His understanding of oceanographic conditions and their effects on naval operations impressed the meteorology specialists supporting the exercise. The division's intelligence picture continued to evolve throughout the evening as new information revealed the true scope of the hostile activities. What had initially appeared to be isolated incidents now showed signs of careful coordination and sophisticated planning. The king helped analyze this intelligence, looking for patterns and connections that might reveal the adversary's ultimate objectives and potential vulnerabilities. Communication with deployed naval units provided real-time updates on the developing tactical situation. The king monitored these reports closely, working with the operations team to adjust plans based on actual conditions rather than theoretical assumptions. His ability to process complex information quickly and make sound decisions under pressure contributed significantly to the division's overall performance throughout the exercise. The humanitarian dimension of the crisis became increasingly prominent as refugee flows and displaced populations created additional challenges for military planners. The king's long-standing involvement with charitable organizations and humanitarian causes helped him understand these complex issues and their implications for military operations. His insistence on considering civilian welfare in all operational planning reflected the values that guide modern military professionals. International media coverage of the simulated crisis added another element of realism to the exercise as division members had to consider the impact of public opinion on military operations. The king participated in mock press briefings and strategic communication planning, learning how modern military operations must account for information warfare and narrative control. His experience with media relations proved valuable in developing effective communication strategies. As the evening progressed, the division successfully developed and implemented a comprehensive response to the crisis that addressed both immediate tactical requirements and longer-term strategic objectives. Their plan combined military action with diplomatic initiatives and humanitarian assistance, reflecting the integrated approach required for effective crisis management in the modern world. The king's contributions throughout the planning process had been substantial and meaningful. The final phase of the exercise required the division to present their recommendations to senior political and military leaders, with the king serving as the primary military briefer. His presentation was clear, comprehensive, and confident, demonstrating his mastery of the complex issues involved in the scenario. The observers were impressed by his ability to articulate military recommendations while acknowledging political constraints and diplomatic considerations. Admiral Hartwell's final assessment of the division's performance was highly positive, with particular praise for the seamless integration of unconventional leadership into established command structures. The king's participation had enhanced rather than disrupted the training value of the exercises, providing unique perspectives and insights that enriched the learning experience for all participants. The precedent established by this remarkable day would influence naval training and leadership development for years to come. As the formal exercises concluded and the division began to disperse, there was time for reflection on the extraordinary events of the day. The king had successfully transitioned from ceremonial head of the armed forces to active participant in naval operations, demonstrating both competence and commitment that earned the respect of professional military personnel at all levels. His willingness to learn, adapt, and contribute had transformed what could have been a publicity exercise into a genuine demonstration of leadership principles. The bonds forged between the king and the members of the Lord High Admiral's division extended beyond the artificial confines of training exercises to create lasting relationships based on mutual respect and shared values. Officers and ratings who had worked alongside their sovereign throughout the day understood that they had participated in something unique and significant, an event that would be remembered and discussed throughout their careers. The implications of the king's successful leadership extended far beyond Britannia Royal Naval College to influence perceptions of the monarchy's relationship with the armed forces. His hands-on approach and genuine engagement with military personnel at all levels demonstrated a commitment to understanding and supporting those who served in his name. The precedent established by this remarkable experience would shape future interactions between the crown and the military for generations to come. As King Charles prepared to depart the college, he carried with him not only the satisfaction of successful completion of challenging exercises, but also a deeper understanding of the men and women who served in the Royal Navy. The salt air, the sound of waves against the harbor walls, and the sight of naval vessels at their moorings would forever remind him of this extraordinary day when he had the privilege of leading some of the finest naval professionals in the world. The experience had enriched his understanding of military service while strengthening the enduring bonds between the monarchy and the Royal Navy.